السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين صدق الله العظيم. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. Alhamdulillah thumma alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us tawfiq to come to his house. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our coming here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all forms of ibadat that we may be engaged in, and all of those ibadat that we, for one reason or the other, we are not able to do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of us. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Yesterday we stopped at mentioning the 10 verses from Surah Baqarah, about which Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu mentioned 5 virtues. In a nutshell, those virtues had to do with what happens to us in our daily lives. Sickness, seeing something that will make us sad, losing something, and all of those events that cause grief, that cause sadness. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said that a person who recites 10 verses of Surah Baqarah, he will not be suffering from any of those things. So those 10 verses from Surah Baqarah are the 4 verses of the beginning of Surah Baqarah, from Alif Lam Mim until Wabil Akhiratihum Yuqinun. Usually, when we open the Quran, the very first page has Surah Fatiha, and the second page has Surah Baqarah. Most of the time, those 4 verses are written on the first page. The next page starts with Ulaika ala hudam min rabbihim wa ulaika humul muflihun. So whatever those 4 lines, 4 ayats are written on the first page of Surah Baqarah, those 4 verses. Ayatul Kursi and the 2 ayat right after Ayatul Kursi. How many is that altogether now so far? 7. So 4 from the very beginning of the surah, 4 from somewhere in the middle, we can say just around 2/3 of the surah. Ayatul Kursi is about 2/3 of the surah. And the 2 lines, 2 ayats from the same surah right after Ayatul Kursi. And they are very easy. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. And then the next ayah is Allahu waliyul ladina amanu, and so on. They're not very difficult ayah. And the 3 ayats, verses from the end of the surah. From the 3 I recited 2 ayats from the very last part of Surah Baqarah, which started from آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون. The ayah preceding this ayah, these 2 ayahs are Lillahi ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. You know them, right? MashaAllah. How many of us know them? I know them. MashaAllah. So those who know them, they should be saying thank you. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thank Allah ka shukr. And those who don't know it, month of Ramadan is here, make an effort, make intention. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Make intention. Even if you were to memorize about 5 words a day, I'm hoping that 5 words, not 5 lines, 5 words. I'm hoping, inshallah, by the end of Ramadan, you'll be able to finish it. You'll start out with 5 words, and then inshallah, you will increase those 5 words to 10 words, and then those 10 words will be increased to 2 lines or 4 lines or 5 lines. And by the time Ramadan is over, inshallah, you will know these 10 ayahs. I wanted to start Surah Al-Imran today. But then looking at the virtues of Ayatul Kursi and the virtues of the last 2 verses of Surah Baqarah, I decided to talk about the virtues of Ayatul Kursi, so we start to recite more and more. With the yaqeen, we start reciting, inshallah, we can hope that every one of us recite Ayatul Kursi every day almost. But just in case if we don't, we need to just review the virtues of Ayatul Kursi, and inshallah it will develop in us the zeal and the interest to recite Ayatul Kursi more and more. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that there is an ayah in Surah Baqarah which is known as Sayyidatu Ayatil Quran, the leader of the verses of Quran. Whichever house this ayah is recited, shaitan leaves that house. And that ayah is Ayatul Kursi. Another riwayah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has been reported to have said, any person who recites Ayatul Kursi after each farz salah, nothing can stop him from entering Jannah other than death. Subhanallah. Anyone who recites Ayatul Kursi after first salah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that nothing can stop him from entering Jannah except for death. And then there are more virtues in there, but I will just keep it limited to what makes this ayah so special and the leader of all the ayats, all the verses in the Quran. Ulama have written that this ayah mentions the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a very special way. In this one ayah, the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is found. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being there and being there always and will remain there all the time. That is found. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's being Sami', being able to listen, being Basir, being able to see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's the sifat of kalam, mutakallim huna. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being infinite and to stay there forever and ever, daim or baqi rehna. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His attribute of the creator of the entire universe, His attribute of being the owner of the entire universe, His attribute of being Azim, being Ali, His attribute of being so powerful that no one can speak in front of Him without His permission. All of this is one ayah. Usually Quran mentions the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like Ghafurur Rahim, like Sami'an Basira, like Ar-Rahman. But in one ayah, having these many attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very unique in this ayah. The attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having so much power and control that He creates the whole thing, He maintains the whole thing, and then He doesn't get tired. None of this brings any tiredness to Him. His attribute of being aware of everything that is happening in the universe, and nothing being out of His sight and knowledge. And then Mufti Shafi Usmani Sahib rahimahullah mentions the whole tafsil description of the 10 words, the 10 sentences that are mentioned in Ayatul Kursi. And whoever wants to listen, read to, inshallah, they are very beneficial. Inshallah, we should be making a habit of reading Ayatul Kursi more and more. The last 3 verses that we recited today from Aman al-Rasulu, the verse previous to these 2 verses, the one that starts from Lillahi ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard wa in tubdu ma fi anfusikum aw tukhfuhu yuhasibkum bihillah. The third last verse is a very special verse, and something that Sahaba Karam were worried about when they received this verse from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after it was revealed. The second part of the verse is وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهِ. The second part of the verse is that whatever you expose and whatever you hide in your heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you accountable for that. What does that mean? Meaning all of those thoughts and wasawis, which we can call them wasawis, all of those thoughts that are coming to our heart, inside our heart, whether we bring them on our own or an idea that just comes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable for that. So now, simply means that I see a $100 bill sitting here, and I look here and there and nobody's watching me, and the idea that comes that I think I should pick it up, I can pay off my bill. It just came. I had no control over this idea. وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهِ. The ayah simply means that this idea that just came to you and you had no control over, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you accountable and will reward you or punish you accordingly. Sahaba Karam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ajma'een, when they heard this ayah from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they were worried. So they ran to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, we heard this from you, and sometime we are receiving these thoughts in our heart that we have no control over. These are involuntary thoughts that are coming, and you're telling us that we will be held accountable for that? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not happy. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not happy when they heard this answer, this response from Sahaba Kiram. And he taught them a lesson saying that, why didn't you say sami'na wa ata'na? Why didn't you say that we listen and we obey? And once Sahaba Kiram radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ajma'in said that, that is when the preceding ayah, the 2 ayah that start from Amana Rasul until the end, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala boasts about the Sahaba Kiram, Amana Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirms their iman, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches Sahaba Kiram some prayers that will take away all of those worries that we have. This is the background, Shan and Nuzul of these 3 verses. What is the message for us? The message is that there will be times when we may find one of the orders of Sharia being difficult. And we might question why. Why is it this way? We might raise an objection against that order of Sharia. The three ayahs, the three verses are telling us, don't raise any objection. Our duty as a servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again our first lesson, our first reminder, that everything is about creating a bond like a slave and his master. Our duty, our responsibility is that whatever injunctions are coming to us, whatever orders we are receiving from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are, as a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are to say, Sami'na wa ata'na. We listen and we obey. When we give this kind of supardigi, when we show this attitude of obedience, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah, La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not make anyone responsible for anything that is overdue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not put a burden that is more than our capacity. So when Sahaba raised that ishkal, not an objection, but ishkal, something to understand, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared their iman after they said Sami'na wa ata'na, and also taught Rasulullah, through Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, some of the prayers that have been mentioned in the last part of this surah, starting from Rabbana la tu'akhidna in nasina wa akhta'na. And I think I will, as far as Surah Baqarah is concerned, I will keep it limited to this, starting from Surah Al-Imran. Al-Imran also starts with huruf muqatta'at. What were huruf muqatta'at and why are they there? Qari sahab. Huruf muqatta'at are letters like alif lam mim sad, alif lam ra, alif lam mim ra. The surah that are starting with these letters, the broken down letters, that's why they are called huruf muqatta'at. Muqatta'a means broken down, broken up. Just letters. And again, just to review, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us a lesson that no matter how knowledgeable we get, there are certain things that we can never find out what they mean. And they can be as simple as the letter alif combined with lam, combined with mim, and so on. Surah Al-Imran, moving further, who was Imran? Anyone knows? Maryam alayha as-salatu was-salam, her father's name is Imran. Surah Tahrim mentions وَمَرْيَمَ ابْنَةَ عِمْرَانَ الَّتِي أَحْصَنَتْ فَرْجَهَا. Maryam bint Imran. Imran is Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam's father. The whole surah, or the beginning of the surah, talks about the lineage of Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam. And Allah knows the wisdom behind it. But for us to understand that all of this lineage is defined to negate the aqeedah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having any children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having any children. To negate, to do nafi, inkar of this aqeedah of Nasara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the family of Imran and named it Al-Imran as well. Al means the progeny of Imran, and how good they were, and how devoted they were, what kind of bonding, what kind of connection they had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Starting from the mother of Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, and all of us know the story, and I don't want to go into the details of the story. We'll just keep it limited to the lesson that we get from the story. And it's a very powerful, very strong lesson. Her mother, Yuhanna, had made intention that whenever the baby will be born, she will devote that baby to the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, putting this child for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like all of us, many parents I know, that they have made intentions that my first child will be a Hafiz. But this was to another level. To completely devote this child to the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's just fitrat that usually when we think like this, we think of male child, right? मेरा बेटा होगा तो मैं उसको हाफिज बनाऊंगा. ऐसे ही होता है ना? हाजी साहब ऐसे ही होता है ना? Seldom we hear मेरी बेटी होगी तो मैं उसको आलिमा बनाऊंगा या मैं उसको हाफिजा बनाऊंगा. Rarely we hear that too, but most of the time when we hear when I have a son, I'm going to make him a hafiz. Naturally, Yuhanna also made that intention. That when the baby will be born, the child will be devoted for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it just happened that the baby was a female child. She still devoted the child to the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the lesson in there? When you have made an intention, especially for a good deed, you might find that things are different than the way you planned. Don't stop. Carry on. This is the lesson, right? Carry on. How would a female child be left in the madrasa? There was no madrasa there. There was no Dar Rashid there. How would a female child be left in the masjid to do i'tikaf? I don't want to use the word setback, because sometimes we use this setback word for a negative, something that puts us behind. Something that was not in the plan. Let's call it that way. It was not in the plan that it will be a female child, and the female child will be also put for devotion of the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. The plan was that it will be a male child, and male child will be devoted for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it just happened that it was not a male child, it was a female child. Right? Yuhanna still carried along. She didn't stop. She didn't say, okay, and the next child. I made that intention, we have to carry on. Moving forward, and again I don't want to recite the ayah, and I don't want to go into the complete detailed stories that have been mentioned in the Quran and Hadith about those specific events that took place. Moving forward, Zakariyah alayhi salatu wassalam took responsibility, becoming a guardian of Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam. Hazrat Maryam is growing up, and she is living in one corner of the masjid. Zakariyah alayhi salatu wasalam would come and find fruits, out of season fruits by Maryam alayhi salam. And he would ask, Ya Maryam, ए Maryam, अन्ना लकी हादा, ये तुम्हारे पास कहां से आया? ये तो बाहर मार्केट में है ही नहीं, ये तुम्हारे पास कहां से आ गया? Where did you get it from? This fruit is not available in the market. And of course the fruits were coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam right away answered, Huwa min indillah, these are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses with his rizq whomever he wants without hisab, without any account. That is when Zakariyah alayhi salatu wasalam learned something from Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam and her bonding with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran says, Hunalika da'a Zakariya Rabbah. At that point, at that time, Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam did not have a child. His wife did not have the capability to bear a child. He was very old, and the wife was old. Not only she was old, she did not have the capacity to have a child. But when Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam saw that Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam is having fruits that are out of season, and they are coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has power over everything. Me being old, my wife being old and not being able to bear a child does not mean anything. The lesson for us is Allah has control over each and everything. All of these things that we see around us as asbab, as means, they are also in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need time to memorize and I need a book to read. Logically, I need these two things other than having intelligence and the environment. But it can happen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can just put so much barakah in time that a person can memorize this whole Quran in 30 days. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. A lot of our Akabirin have memorized Quran in the month of Ramadan because there was no Hafiz available. And they were worried about how would they perform the Sunnah of Taraweeh, and another Sunnah is, one Sunnah is to read 20 rakat for the 29 or the 30 nights, and the other Sunnah is to finish the entire Quran. So they were concerned about it. So they took on this responsibility of memorizing one juz a day in the month of Ramadan, and they became Hafiz. So all of these means that we see around us to help us achieve our goals, those means are also in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the full power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see example of those every day. We are going through some pain, we take Tylenol, and alhamdulillah, with the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pain goes away. The next day we have the same pain, we take the Tylenol, this time the pain doesn't go away. What does it tell us? That the power to make it happen, the power to make it work is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not the tablet. It's not the capsule. It's the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is going to make it happen. Right? Not only it helps strengthen our aqeedah on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and take away our aqeedah from believing that these asbab, these means have any power. It also again strengthens our dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, I'm taking this medicine. We have learned to, whenever we take any medication, we say Allahu Shafi, Allahu Kafi. We're reminding ourselves that our aqeedah is that this medicine is not what is curing me. What is curing me is Allah. Allah is Shafi and Allah is Kafi. Allah is enough for me and Allah is the one who is curing me. So it takes away our aqeedah, our belief on having anything, that anything is happening from these asbab, these means, and strengthens our aqeedah on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the same time, it strengthens our bonding, our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Ya Allah, we depend on you for each and everything that is happening around us. All of these things we have to apply them, we have to use them. This is also part of tawakkul, that we take something and we apply it, we use it, but we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In addition to this, if we pay attention to the description, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described how Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam made that dua, which is in the beginning of Surah Maryam actually. Right? So in brief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam saw that fruits were out of the season, fruits were coming to Maryam, at that time he made some dua. What dua he made and how he made that dua, the kayfiyat, his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is described in detail in the beginning of Surah Maryam. And inshallah, briefly we will talk about that because we need to learn that as well. How to present our needs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that we also learned in Surah Fatiha, which is to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and then present our need. And this is what we will see inshallah in the beginning of Surah Maryam. I will touch that topic and then inshallah we'll carry on with Surah Nisa. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.